Mark Leave had always kept to himself, living in a quiet neighborhood on the outskirts of Lyon, France. He was well known but rarely understood. At first glance, he seemed like a reserved man, polite but distant. He never caused trouble, never engaged in gossip, and lived a quiet life. But there was something about him that had sparked intense curiosity among his neighbors, something that no one could ignore. Mark was known for adopting children, not just once or twice, but almost every month. Each time a new child was brought into his home, the neighbors couldn't help but wonder why. It was an unusual sight, even in a community that valued kindness and charity. At first, people found it admirable, a man dedicating his life to taking in orphans. What could be more generous? But as time went on, things started to feel strange. Despite the growing number of children under his care, no one ever saw them. They didn't play outside, they didn't go to school. The house, despite its supposed residence, was always eerily quiet. At first, people thought maybe Mark was just a private person, someone who didn't like to draw attention to himself or his family. But after months of the same pattern repeating itself, curiosity turned into suspicion. The lack of activity around the house was unsettling. No one ever saw social workers visiting. There were no school drop-offs, no noisy birthday parties, no sounds of children laughing or playing in the yard. For a house that was supposed to be filled with young children, it felt lifeless. As whispers spread through the neighborhood, a few locals decided to take matters into their own hands. Some of them started watching the house more closely, hoping to catch a glimpse of what was really going on inside. A couple of neighbors even stayed up late, hoping to see if the children ever came out at night. But no matter how long they watched, they saw nothing out of the ordinary. The lights would go on and off at expected hours. Sometimes, shadows moved behind the curtains. But there was never any sign of the many children Mark had adopted. The mystery only deepened. Rumors began circulating. Some people believed Mark was running an illegal operation. Others thought something even worse was happening behind closed doors. A few neighbors even considered calling the authorities, but without any real evidence of wrongdoing, they hesitated. One evening, a small group decided they could no longer stay silent. They waited until Mark returned home from his usual errands, then approached him as he stepped out of his car. Trying to remain respectful, one of them spoke up. "Mark, we've noticed that you've been adopting a lot of children," the man said cautiously. "And we never see them. We just wanted to ask why." Mark looked at them for a long moment before finally smiling. "Come inside," he said. "I'll show you." The neighbors exchanged glances. They hadn't expected an invitation. They had imagined excuses, maybe even defensiveness. But instead, Mark was welcoming them inside. Cautiously, they followed him through the front door. What they saw next left them speechless. The house was nothing like what they had imagined. Instead of a cramped, chaotic space filled with children, they walked into an organized, well-maintained home that looked more like a specialized care center than a traditional house. Lining the walls were educational materials, therapy tools, and medical equipment. A large wooden table in the living room was covered in art supplies, and soft classical music played in the background. But it was the children themselves who shattered their assumptions. Sitting quietly in various parts of the house were children with severe disabilities and medical conditions. Some of them were in wheelchairs. Others had cognitive impairments that required specialized attention. A few were nonverbal, communicating only through gestures or assistive devices. They were the forgotten children of the foster system, the ones no one else wanted. Mark turned to his visitors, his expression calm. "I know what you were thinking," he said. "That I was hiding something terrible in here. But the truth is, I was hiding them from a world that had already rejected them." He explained that he had grown up in foster care himself. As a child, he had bounced from one home to another, never finding a place where he truly belonged. When he became an adult, he made a promise to himself: he would dedicate his life to giving these children the home he never had. The reason they were never seen outside was simple. Many of them couldn't walk. Others had immune system issues that made it unsafe for them to be in public places. He had designed his home to be a safe haven, filled with medical equipment, therapy resources, and a support system tailored to each child's needs. Mark had been doing everything alone, without government support, without seeking recognition, just quietly giving these children a chance at a better life. The neighbors, who had spent months speculating about sinister possibilities, stood in stunned silence. They had assumed the worst, but in reality, they had uncovered something extraordinary. Mark had been working tirelessly, selflessly, to care for children whom society had abandoned. Word about Mark's work soon spread beyond the neighborhood. Social workers, nonprofits, and volunteers stepped forward to help. Donations started pouring in. Medical professionals offered to assist with the children's care. Mark's quiet mission turned into a beacon of hope, inspiring countless others to consider fostering children with disabilities. He had never sought attention or praise. He had simply wanted to give these children a family. This story is a reminder that things are not always as they seem. Sometimes, the people we judge the most harshly are the ones doing the greatest good. Mark's actions had shocked the neighborhood, but not for the reason they had expected. He wasn't hiding something sinister. He was hiding love, sacrifice, and an unwavering commitment to children who had no one else to turn to. What do you think about Mark's story? Have you ever misjudged someone, only to realize later that you were wrong? Let us know in the comments. And if you believe in the power of compassion and kindness, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real-life stories that restore faith in humanity.